Hi, everyone. So today we are going to talk about design thinking. So the term design thinking, I think, started being used around 2006. And it's around 2013 that this term actually picked up. And now I think most top-tier business schools have a specialized program on design thinking, and even we have one at Cornell. What I'd like to do today is to invite an expert, somebody who has worked for several years in marketing, and she has had the opportunity to use design thinking at one stage in her career. So I'm going to invite her, and I'm going to request her to talk to us about her experience with design thinking. Zahara Kassamali is a Cornell alum. She graduated in 2009 from the Cornell MBA program. I've had the honor of having her in one of my classes. Zahara, thank you for taking our time to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's jump into design thinking. Now, this design thinking, sometimes, at least some people think it's a new fancy fad, which is going to go away in some time. So some people think that some people think it's a radically new approach to looking at innovation. Others would say that, well, it's kind of a mixture of customer co-creation sessions, which have been around for a long time, and focus groups, and all kind of put together. So why don't you begin by telling us what exactly is design thinking, and how is it different from things that we've had in the past?
Yeah, so design thinking is really keeping the user at the center of design. And that's the main core principle. It's truly an iterative process. So design thinking just doesn't happen once. You really want to keep utilizing it throughout different phases of the design process. Mm-hmm. It's the difference between designing the right thing and the thing right. So customers these days are looking for us to solve their problems. And how do you do that? Well, you have a hypothesis about something. However, that hypothesis may not be true. It may be true. So utilizing design thinking to truly prove your hypothesis wrong or right is really what design thinking is about. So you want to start with the user and test your hypothesis. And it could be in the inception phase. It could be in the middle of development. It could be once you've rolled out the product, once you've rolled out a mobile app, or once you've rolled out a website and you're adding new features. It can be incorporated into the entire process, and should be, in order to ensure that you are taking the user's feedback into consideration.
Okay, let me seek a clarification. You said you involve the customer in testing your hypothesis. Now, is design thinking used for testing your hypothesis, or is it used more for generating the hypothesis, or for both?
So actually both. So when I've done user testing, so I built a mobile app while I was at American Express Global Business Travel. We decided to build our own proprietary mobile application so that we could have full control over the roadmap versus relying on a back-end system or a third-party system that could get us to market faster, but we really wanted control of our entire roadmap. And so we went about this process of developing our own mobile application. And through that process, what we saw was, as we started to develop a minimum viable product, we were able to get to a minimum viable product by interviewing our existing clients, business travelers, to really understand what a business traveler would want in a mobile application and what would make their travel experience more seamless. Travel these days seems to be getting harder and harder. So what could we do as American Express Global Business Travel to make their experience more seamless? So we started out with interviews. And in the interviews, we had a hypothesis around, so we had done competitive research and looked at other apps in order to generate ideas for features that we could introduce into our mobile application. So some of these ideas were validated as being the most important features that our travelers wanted. But what also happened through that interview process is that we were able to get additional features that they wanted that we hadn't even thought of to fuel our pipeline, our innovation pipeline. So it can really be, going back to your question, Manoj, that it can really be utilized for both testing your hypothesis as well as developing new hypothesis. And as you sort of get these new pieces of information and new nuggets of innovation, then the process is iterative again. So you start to take that idea, build it out, and test it to make sure that that idea is actually what they wanted. Sometimes people say they want something, but then when you go into usability testing, when they go to use it, it's actually not what they really wanted.
Okay, so you can use it to generate hypotheses, and you can use it to test the hypothesis. How is this process different from traditional marketing research? You know, you've worked in marketing in with other agencies and other organizations. So, in your view, what is unique and new about design thinking?
For me personally, what I've encountered in design thinking is it is a continuous iterative process. So once you launch the product, or once you launch a mobile application or a website, it is constantly going back to your users and testing and learning. Just because you launched a website doesn't mean that the usability of the website is all of a sudden going to be great. You may have launched it, you may have done usability testing along the way, and now when people are interacting with the entire site, they may not be interacting with it the way that you had anticipated. Or maybe it's taking them too long to find the hamburger menu, which is like the 3 lines that you'll see sometimes on the top left or top right of the navigation of a website. So for me, it's constantly having the user at the center of design in every stage of the process. So whether you've launched it, whether you're creating new features and benefits, and so I find that that's different from traditional research, where in traditional research, you're doing focus groups, you're finding out some insights, and then you go to market. That's sort of what I've found in my experience. I would also say with design thinking, the notion of creating a minimum viable product is also the difference. So going out with a minimum viable product allows you to get to market very quickly, allows organizations to fail early, because if the product doesn't work, you haven't invested a lot of time, money, and resources in that one thing, versus going to market with a full-blown product and full-blown marketing strategy and putting thousands or millions of dollars behind this particular product that you thought was the right thing. And I'm sure there's many business cases, I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment, where this has happened. So creating that minimum viable product allows you to test and learn very quickly and fail early if you need to fail, and pivot if you need to pivot, and iterate if you need to iterate. Or sometimes the decision is that you need to kill the project, and that's okay too, because failing is a part of learning.
Okay, so if I were to summarize, you're basically saying that the unique thing about design thinking is that it's a way of thinking within the organization, and it involves engaging the consumers both to get their insight as well as to get their feedback right from inception of the idea to even when the product is online and it's active, to the entire decision journey of the consumers. Is that a fair characterization?
Yep, that's fair.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot. I think we've all learned a lot more about design thinking than we knew before we had this conversation. Thank you for taking time for this discussion. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Wish you guys all the best of luck.
Thank you, Zahara.
Thank you.